Head back to Brazil now for a conversation with the country's former Treasury Secretary Joaquim Levy. He's currently a macro strategist at Bradesco Asset Management, and we are talking on the eve of the President Obama's trip to South America. Mr. Levy, welcome to Bloomberg's Bottom Line. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
Mr. Levy, we've been talking to our correspondent there, Cecilia Tornaghi, and she was telling us about Brazil's explosive growth. Last year, 7.5%. To what do you attribute that growth, and is it something that Brazil can continue in the months ahead?
Well, there are many causes for the growth. One is that Brazil has been quite in a sound ground in terms of financial system, in terms of fiscal accounts. Also, it has benefited from, of course, the commodity prices in the last few years. The fact is that in the last couple of years, we have generated about 2 million jobs a year. And we think that going forward, we'll continue to grow, paying attention to inflation and everything that is necessary for a solid economic setup and environment.
Mr. Levy, would that solid economic setup and environment also include more business dealings with the United States? Because as President Obama has said on the eve of that trip, and I'm quoting him here, he says our top priority has to be creating and sustaining new jobs and new opportunities for our people. How can Brazil and the United States of America work hand in hand in a partnership?
Well, there are many, many ways. First, there are many more people with income when you have more jobs, and this, of course, creates a demand. But in addition to that, as you know, we have a very large new discovery of oil. And, of course, American companies have benefited also from that because we have investments of the order of $200–300 billion, and many of the suppliers are American. So it's fact that the opportunities in Brazil for a trade both ways are very big. Our trade with the United States has grown more than 100% in the last 5 years and will continue to grow.
One of those partnerships that Brazil had recently was with China. As Cecilia was telling us, China gobbled up Brazilian commodities not too long ago. How does this relationship between Brazil and China compare to the relationship between Brazil and the United States?
Well, one thing, of course, the relationship with China is much more recent than that with the United States. I think both are growing in a very healthy pace. Our exports to China, it's true, have grown much more than to the United States. Actually, if you look in the last 2 or 3 years, exports from the United States to Brazil, sales of American products have grown more than the sales of Brazilian products. And, of course, this will also be a topic of discussion with Mrs. Rousseff and the business people in Brazil. We want both ways, naturally, but I think there are many areas also in terms of communication, aerospace, many areas where we can have very fruitful cooperation and new business ventures.
We also noted that at least half of the population in Brazil now members of the middle class. As President Obama goes to your nation, how does he get Brazilians to buy American?
Well, I think that Brazilians like to buy quality products. I think that, of course, the diversity of products and the big names from America in Brazil is remarkable. So I think that as the income in Brazil continues to grow, there will be a natural growth of American sales to Brazil. In addition to that, as you mentioned, there are many opportunities in energy. You know, biofuel that, again, goes both ways. There are equipment, there is many, for instance, private equity funds and so on that come to Brazil, invest in Brazil, and often buy American goods. The Exim Bank is a good example. It has played a role, and I think will continue to play a role in financing some investments in Brazil with American machinery, which in some cases is unique. You only find in America. In Brazil, you buy from all over for the world. And I think that as long as you get good American material, we'll be very glad to buy too.
Mr. Levy, in our last minute, talk to me about the dynamic that's going to play out between President Barack Obama and the Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff. I believe this might be the first time that they have actually had an official state function. Tell us about your president and what she brings to the table.
Well, she's, of course, the first Brazilian woman president, and she has very clear economic agenda of continued growth. And also, I think that she's willing to open new fronts of cooperation in many areas with the United States. She's, I think the popularity of the president in Brazil is very high. The relationship of Brazilian government with the U.S. government, of course, dates back to many years. In recent years with President Bush also had good relationship. So I believe that the visit of President Obama in Brazil will allow us to address many issues, political, Brazilian role in the financial sector, in the financial architecture has grown in recent years, G20, other fora, political in terms of common interests in Africa and other areas in the world. I think that will be a lot of openness to discuss all these topics with President Obama. And Mrs. Dilma, I think he's going to love it, her.
All right. Joaquim Levy, the former Treasury Secretary of Brazil, currently a macro strategist at Bradesco Asset Management, joining us live from Sao Paulo. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on Bottom Line. We appreciate it.
Thank you.